Hey, everyone. Oh my God. God, I'm so bad at this show introduction thing. Hey, welcome to another episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends. My name is Jeff May. I have cool friends. Could you tell I was putting a pillow behind my back when I was talking there? You might not have. I don't know. Thank you for coming to another episode. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. My name is Jeff May, and I have an amazing, cool friend to introduce you to. This guy is one of my favorite people. I just like him so much. But beyond that, he's also one of the most talented and up-and-coming and super involved writers, designers, artists that I know. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, Chogrin.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. No, you have done some things lately, huh?
Yeah, I've been busy.
You have done some things lately. Let's see. So when I first met you or was aware of you, was back when I was working at Sideshow.
Right.
Yeah, you had a piece released called Guillermo del Toro.
Yep.
And that seems like it was one of the inaugural pieces from the Unruly Industries sort of like indie vinyl collector designer toy line.
Yeah, that was my birth into the vinyl toy industry in a way, because I had been interested in doing vinyl toys for a long time, and I kind of contacted through Designer Con and through talking to different people. I actually got the information from Tracy Tubera, who I was a big fan.
He's great. Yeah.
Who, Tracy's great. All those guys are great. Jesse, Hernandez, everybody at Unruly.
That's Urban Aztec, I believe, right?
Yes, Urban Aztec. Sorry.
Everyone's got code names.
I know. Yeah. Well, I go by Chogrin, but my real name is Joseph Game.
Okay. Why Chogrin?
Chogrin was the nickname given to me as a kid growing up in Ecuador, South America. Mm-hmm. It meant...
as opposed to Ecuador, Asia.
Yeah. It's so programmed in my brain for me to always like clarify, because growing up, people would be like, where is that? So
Ecuador?
Ecuador. Yeah, so
hey, where's Ecuador?
Yeah.
I feel like we got the gist. Yeah.
It's like, you're Mexican, right? I'm like, no.
I mean, here generally they'll just be like,
yeah. I mean, listen, no offense. A lot of my best friends and people that I love are Mexican, but there is a little bit of a difference.
I would think so. Yeah.
Being from another country.
You know what's weird is in New England, very rare.
Yeah.
Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, much more common.
Yeah.
And so it's very fascinating because I run into a lot less Puerto Ricans out in Los Angeles than I do in New England.
Oh, wow.
And so it's funny to see that and because I used to teach about regional settling and diasporas and all these different,
wow.
I used to teach about immigration throughout history.
Oh, wow.
And language and how it moves through and everything. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if there's a big, you can always tell that when there's a big group of specific like regions or people when there's restaurants.
The food.
The food. So here in LA, I have found maybe like over the years, 3 good spots, and like out of those 3, I think one, sadly closed during the pandemic. It was called Rinconcito Ecuatoriano. It used to be right off LAX, and it was like my grandmother's cooking.
Oh, really?
It was amazing. But sadly, it's not there anymore. And I know there's a lot of big groups of Ecuadorians in New York, or as they say, New Yoricans.
So obviously in New England, we have much more common like Puerto Rican food.
Yeah.
However, one thing that has been fascinating to me has been trying to find really great Indian food here, because I didn't realize I got spoiled in Central Mass. In Central Mass, there were like big computer companies in the 80s. And so you had this influx of Indian immigrants coming in working for these computer companies like Compaq, for example. And so what you would have is these really densely populated communities that would have amazing food. Oh. And so I really, really enjoyed Indian food in like the Shrewsbury, Massachusetts area.
I learned how to eat like really good Indian food when I moved here to LA.
Yeah.
Because when I lived in Philly, it was kind of just going to school and then going to work. I didn't kind of really venture out a lot. Here in LA, especially in the area that I was in, it's kind of you're thrown into diversity. Not that Philadelphia doesn't have it. Philadelphia has it. Just like you kind of like need more like a car, to get around. I mean, not Philadelphia is one of those cities actually you can get around without a car beautifully. Not like here in LA. No shade to LA, but that's one of the things that I miss about Philly and the East Coast is I could get from North to South Philly like that. Just hopping on.
Our public transport is not what you consider great.
So yeah, I love all kinds of foods. Anytime time I get to try out different things. I'm really into Korean food right now.
Oh yeah.
So love that.
Do you have spots that you like to go to? This is a very specific.
Nah, well, I can't. You know what? I feel terrible. I don't remember the names.
Nice.
I just there's a spot down the street from me that I just go in and.
Oh, great.
And yeah.
My pinball league
Yeah.
is in this killer Korean barbecue joint.
Oh yeah.
In Van Nuys called Ace Gogi, and it is just Korean barbecue and then like perfectly maintained pinball.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like a dream. It's legit the best. And then if you're looking for like Korean street food, there's a place called the Bun Shop in Koreatown, and it's I think Steven Yeun is a part owner.
Oh wow.
But I used to be in that area all the time, and that was really, really great. Like Bao.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is not like, like traditional Korean, but I wish the Kogi would have like a permanent location.
That's Kogi's great.
Yeah.
I love Roy. He's just a genuinely nice person.
Yeah.
And I worked with him on a TV show once.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, when I worked on The Taste.
Oh,
with
cool.
Anthony Bourdain and them, and he came in. He was super cool.
Oh man,
he was super cool.
I'm gonna have to ask you now off mic or about your Bourdain story.
I mean,
was he okay? Or?
He and I got along very well.
Oh, good.
And it was it doesn't have to be off mic.
Okay.
It seems very name droppy. But
what, dude? I want to hear. I mean, like, I was genuinely upset, like when he passed away. Like, he was one of my heroes.
It's hard for me to say that he was a friend because we didn't really have that much interaction outside of what we did at work and on Twitter.
Yeah.
I will say that we were friendly and we got along very well.
Yeah.
He's a friend from work.
But he was the real deal. He was super nice.
So here's the deal. What he doesn't like is riding. He really didn't like that. Yeah. So if you were clearly you can
tell that that's part of his personality.
Trying to impress. However, you're pretty much told, because I had a very low on the totem pole job. I was a production assistant, literally the bottomest of the barrel. And my job, I was just babysitting contestants and moving stuff around, or chairs and shit.
Yeah.
You're told, don't.
These are the best stories, like Bill Hader being Arnold's assistant.
Yes. Okay. Do it. Take a leadership skills. So I'm sitting there, and we're not supposed to interact with them, but we all were in the same area all the time.
Yeah.
And all he wanted to talk about was comic books, fighting, and comedy.
That's amazing.
That's all he wanted to talk about.
Which makes sense, because he, like, a comic book.
Those were his interests. Yeah. He wrote Get Jiro, which I loved that book.
Yeah, I still need to read it.
So it was funny
because that's about a sushi chef, right? That's like
it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of like Blade Runner-ish sushi chef thing.
Yeah.
So he loved talking about comedy, and he knew I was a comedian, and he knew I was a boxer, and he knew I was a comic book nerd.
Right.
So he kept like jumping in to what we were talking about, and then we would just talk with him like he was a dude.
Right.
And we would get like I got talked to about it by and I had to say, I was like, look, this guy.
You're like,
I was like, this is, and also what
am I supposed to tell him? Stop talking to me.
He cut his teeth in New England too. He was a cook in Cape Cod.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, man, I was like, if my boss and my boss, like, this guy's not only the star of the show, he's the producer of the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, if my boss's boss's boss wants to interact with me, I can't tell him to go f himself. And I said, you need to understand, I'm not trying to get this guy interested. Like, I'm not trying to be his buddy. I'm not trying to be his friend.
Right.
He's another guy that I work with, and that's fine.
Well, and it was his way of like getting some kind of realism while navigating through the Hollywood bullshit.
Yeah. And he would tell these crazy stories. Like he would stay at the Chateau Marmont, right? That's where he was staying.
And get in and out.
So, and he loved In and Out. That was a thing that he and I actually would not necessarily butt heads over, because I wasn't going to like particularly argue with him, but I think In and Out is
that's right. I forgot that
it's egregiously overrated, but it's fine.
Are you a Whataburger guy?
No, I don't give a shit about that. I think In and Out's a perfectly serviceable $3 to $4 burger.
It is.
If you were to ask me to choose between In and Out and Fat Burger, it would be Fat Burger a million times over. Or something comparable, I'd rather have Burger King.
Yeah.
I think it tastes better than In-N-Out.
If I had to pick from the three chains,
Yeah.
the big three, I always go with Wendy's, because the fact that the burger is sticking out of the bun has always been like, I'm getting value,
extra
man.
burger.
Yeah, I'm getting value.
Talk about a value menu. Yeah. So he was really cool. And he told me this story. He's like, you want to hear the coolest story? And I was like,
I want to hear it now.
I was like, yes, Anthony Bourdain, author of several books and star of many TV shows. If you have a secret story that you want to tell me, I want to hear it. And he was like, he goes, I was at the chateau, and he's like, I had just sat down, and he got a burger. And he's like, and I was sitting down to eat, and like the waiter tapped him, or like the server or whoever was in the area of the lounge. Or I gotta be honest, I've never been there. I don't know what the area was, but he's like, somebody that worked there tapped him. He said, those gentlemen are inviting you to join them. And he was like, oh, whatever. And then he looks up, and it's like Mel Brooks. I think it was either Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, or Mel Brooks and somebody. And he was just like, he's like, do you understand how important Young Frankenstein is to me? And he was like, just geek. And seeing this guy who is just like the king of playing it cool, just geek out, like giddy about it.
Yeah.
Just super geeking out.
That's amazing.
And he would be like, oh, did you watch Doug Stanhope's new special? You got to watch it. It's so funny. Or like, oh, do you like Rob Delaney? I was like, I think his writing is good. I'm not a huge fan of his stand-up. And he's like, his new book is awesome. You got to read it. And I was like, I'll be on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
The next day he comes out of his trailer at lunch.
Yeah.
And like walks over to me with the book and gives me the book. And everybody's just staring at me, and I'm like,
I'm sorry.
I don't know. And then I was telling somebody this story that we had worked on the same show together. He worked as like a grip or something, and I'd mentioned the story, and he was like, you're that guy. Like that was a thing.
That's cool.
And like it's cool, but also it made me feel really self-conscious
right
about that, because I was just trying to do my job.
I've been in that position too. I can't pinpoint it right now, but it's just kind of sort of like I cannot help this person coming over to talk to me, and then it was almost like the producer almost kind of told me like, hey, they need to focus on doing this. I'm like, they're coming to me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything.
I can't do it
out of my way,
It's hard. It's hard because, it's also, it's not like I was like too cool for it. Like I still thought it was really cool, but
yeah, of course.
But he was also like a lot of dudes that I've talked to from back home. And I like that. I like having real conversations with people, not this like, oh my God, I like the work you do, which I did, but I wasn't going to be a weirdo about it.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of which, by the way, because this is about you.
Yeah.
You did the Guru del Toro piece.
No, dude. But you know what? I love hearing this stuff about you. This is great. I'm learning so much about you. But yeah,
this is connected a bit to you now because Guru del Toro, it is an idol of Guillermo del Toro, 6-armed idol. Yeah. And each arm represents a non-copyright violation of the properties that he has worked on.
Yeah. It's to give some context or some background story, the original Guru del Toro was done for an art show I curated in 2015 for Gallery 1988. It was the original one was done out of resin. It was sculpted by my friend Taylor Brown, based on my design, and that show was one of those pivotal shows for me because I always looked at art galleries as my way of like shooting my shot, like not necessarily shooting my shot, but like to challenge myself. I'm like, what haven't I done yet as an artist? Like, I was pushing myself to do screen prints. I was doing I was already doing a lot of illustration stuff. But I was like, what haven't I done yet that I want to do? I was like, the year before I had done it was the 85th anniversary of Popeye. I had done a Popeye art show, officially licensed, which was officially licensed shows are a huge pain in the ass.
Oh, the amount of like hoops you have to jump.
Yeah, there was literally a Popeye piece that we got. The guy was so clever. It was actually one of the best pieces. I actually own it now.
Oh, really?
But we had to take it out of the show because it's literally the whole piece is like a bunch of Popeyes beating the shit out of each other. But in this like,
was it of the different eras of Popeye, or is it all the same kind of version?
No,
of Popeye?
It was just literally this cluster of like Popeye arms. Like it's just like this whole piece was just literally Popeye arms, just doing the punching
Oh, cool. Like in a cloud?
Like almost in a cloud, but like it was just made out of all Popeye fists. But in there somewhere, one of the arms was getting shot up with heroin.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one I think was he drew a dick in there somewhere. So,
oh yeah. They're not gonna want.
It's kind of
that,
like it's almost kind of like it almost became kind of like a Where's Waldo.
Yes.
You know, so he kind of sort of like knew, it was like, they'll never find this. And, you know, they found it.
Of course they did. Yeah.
So,
skid up the poo. I'm going to shoot myself up there.
So essentially that.
I'm just picturing him do the heroin thing. And then instead of the arms getting big, he just falls asleep.
I mean, it would have been even more hilarious if like the needle would have had like a spinach.
Spinach, yeah. I thought there was going to be spinach.
No,
in the needle,
no, it was just straight up like, and then on top of it, like he made that arm extra veiny too. I'm like, dude,
come on, man.
Yeah. But I love that piece. But anyways, out of that show, I was like, okay, I'm like, this is super important. The reason that show was super important to me is because my grandfather in Ecuador used to be a sailor. Where he was in the Marines. He was in the Ecuadorian Marines. The one war that Ecuador had that they always talk about in 1941, and it's literally, I always say this, and maybe I shouldn't say it, but like Ecuador is kind of like the Poland of South America, because every other country around it was trying to take a piece of it, little by little. So the war that my grandfather fought was called the Battle of Jambeli, which was basically Ecuador against Peru, and it's one of those stories that has like stayed with me all these years, because the actual battleship that my grandfather fought in is actually a museum in Ecuador that you can actually go visit.
Oh, damn.
Go visit, and my grandfather's pictures there, which is insane. So, but the crazy thing about that battle was that it was like the Ecuadorian ship was like tiny compared to the Armada from the Peruvians. It was Ecuador against Peru. So I always thought it was cool that Ecuador won that battle, you know, with a small boat. You know, but anyways, so growing up, my grandfather even looked like Popeye. He kind of sort of had like that kind of gruff, you know,
those like that sea face.
So I would essentially, when I watch Popeye cartoons, I'm like, oh, it's cartoons of my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
So for me, it was kind of sort of like a two for, also Popeye for me is a huge influence as an artist. If you look at my artwork, I always like, I don't necessarily have Popeye arms, but I have those thick arms. Yeah.
Okay. So looking at influences, one of the things that I noticed in your art, because I went to your website, looked at a lot of your prints and everything like that, is that you definitely seem to have like, I don't know if obviously it's not the Hays Code, but like the pre-Mickey style of animation back when like it was always like the devil dancing and shit like that, or like people, and they were like rotoscoping Cab Calloway and or whatever, like that is a clear energy that I get from the style of your drawing.
It was a very punk rock time for animation.
Oh, it was wild, yeah.
And one of my biggest influences, and I always love to name drop him in anything that I do, is besides Popeye. Popeye was created by E.C. Segar, and then it became popular, even more popular because of the Fleischer brothers.
Yes.
So the Fleischer cartoons is actually what made the spinach eating popular. In the original comics, Popeye rubbed this magical hen, and that's where he got his strength.
You know, it's funny about the spinach too.
What?
The reason that everyone thinks that it's so like rich in what is it, iron?
Iron, yeah,
is because of I think Bird's Eye screwed up on a decimal point. For like the iron content.
I just love those, like even those little commercials back then, like for kids to eat their spinach. It was like, I think one of the famous one was this little girl that was getting bullied, and then she eats the spinach and beats the crap out of this like bigger kid. It's great.
I mean, I did. I ate spinach because of Popeye. Yeah, of course.
I still do today. So anyway, so the other guy that's a huge influence on me is Ub Iwerks, who is the co-creator of Mickey Mouse. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. You know, I always love the line where Walt's like, it all started with a mouse, and I always want to add like drawn by Ub Iwerks. Yeah. So one of my life goals before I die is to someday have enough of, I don't want to say power, but enough like, you know, like know enough people where I can be like, you know what you should do? You should build a statue of Ub Iwerks in the parks. Yeah. Because he needs to be there right next with Walt, because he is as pivotal to the building of all this stuff as Walt, especially in California Adventure.
You know, that's not going to happen.
It will.
Because Disney is so fierce. If Disney admits that.
Yeah. Well, they have.
But if they take an official, the legal ramifications that can come from that are insane. It's like you see it, like,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with Bob Kane and Bill Finger with Batman.
Well, that was a little bit more. But the thing with is Ub like left the studio and he literally like just like kind of like not sold all his rights, but he just basically signed off like just like yeah whatever, you know. He later came back and you know him and like a lot of people think like they had a falling out. They did have a falling out, but Ub then later came back and literally became like started like the Imagineering program for.
Now, is that your favorite animation?
Yeah. Animator. Yeah, everybody is like the 9 Old Men. I'm like 9 Old Men. Like it started with Ub Iwerks.
I mean, for me personally,
I shouldn't say the 9 Old Men. I like the 9 Old Men. Fine, they're all super talented.
For those of you that are not aware, the 9 Old Men are considered the fathers of what we consider the modern day style of animation that you would get from Disney. They call them the 9 Old Men because they were there forever.
Right.
And it really sort of many people think that they were kind of the reason that a lot of upstart animators left Disney. When you think of like people like Don Bluth.
Yeah.
Or even Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah. All those, the 9 Old Men are basically gods here because everybody that went to CalArts had them like as teachers. And a lot of those guys are genuinely amazing artists.
Yes.
Like Ward Kimball is like such a character. He shared the same love of trains like with Walt. Walt like, you know, built his own like little train in the backyard and you know. And there's a museum here that you can go every I think it's like every first or third Sunday you can go here in Burbank and look at Walt's like train museum.
I feel like a casual because of how much I love Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
Because Chuck Jones, I think, mastered animation timing better than anybody else.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I don't think anybody hit comedic timing the way he did.
And Avery.
Oh, Tex Avery. Yeah. Like those two. And I guess Tex Avery most famously, I think the wolf whistle, I think is the thing that most people would associate with Tex Avery.
Yeah.
Chuck Jones obviously would be the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. I think that would be the thing. And those, the better versions of Tom and Jerry.
Oh, absolutely. Although I do like those early Hanna-Barbera ones.
Well, they're so exceedingly violent that it is wild.
I rewatched some of them. There's some like
brutal,
but there's also some adult shit in there that I'm just like, how
cartoons? Okay, we can talk about that for a second because cartoons, the idea that cartoons are for children ignores that cartoons were a new comedy medium, essentially, for everyone. And if you look at who these characters were doing impressions of, they were all adult entertainers that were in there for adults. Like we think of like Foghorn Leghorn as Foghorn Leghorn, not that dude's character that they were clearly ripping off. Or the same thing with like Bugs Bunny. Like Bugs Bunny is an impression of Clark Gable. Like people don't really think about that now because they've been for children for such a long period of time.
Right.
But they've always been relatively adult. They've just been tongue in cheek about it and been accessible to everybody.
And not to go back to, you know, well, I guess this is a good segue back to Del Toro.
That's what I want. Yes. Because of Pinocchio he just did.
Yeah. And he's been saying animation is a medium, is not a genre, you know? In pseudo preparation for this show, I watched Pinocchio yesterday. Did you cry a lot?
I cried at the end so hard.
I watched that movie like 5
times. The final scene of that movie,
so good,
is I'm tearing up right now thinking about it, and I'm not even kidding you here. I'm not messing with you.
Yeah,
that ending. I mean, it's a beautiful movie. It's really, really well done, and as you're watching it, half the time you're like, I can't believe this is puppetry. Yeah. Like you keep saying that, which actually to me was even a bit of a problem because I'm watching this movie so obsessed with the technical aspect that I'm missing some of the story.
But then when you finish watching, you realize how genius it is that it is stop motion and it is puppets.
It was a perfect film.
And the fact that all the human characters were like latex, like kind of like built like old puppets, and Pinocchio was the only one that was like had like 3D printed parts because they wanted to have like that feeling that he was made
different
of wood.
That he was like, you know, such an outsider in that world. Yeah. So with that too, now the Guru Del Toro piece is released. It's got this very great gold, which wasn't the original intent. Was that the original intent or gold, or when you guys were in the process, you're like, you know, this actually looks more like the Idol?
Well, you know, it's funny because I thought about the idol. But then when I was designing it, I was like, because I wanted when I was designing the original figure. So to go back to Popeye really quick, when I did that Popeye show, I was like, I want to do. That was my first time I did like a 3D thing of my art, and it was like a revelation. It was like ecstasy, because seeing then your artwork come to 3D, it was like just like mind blowing. So I collaborated with this buddy of mine, Tommy. Oh my gosh, he's gonna hate me now that I forgot his last name. But my buddy Tommy sculpted this Popeye sculpture based on my design for that show, and we painted it gold. So I was like, I started thinking almost kind of like, oh, if I do another one of these, like, you know, maybe I can do like a series where like it's like these gold statues. Mm-hmm. But with the Guillermo one, it made even more sense, because when I was designing it, and I was basically, the idea came from like, I look at Guillermo as a guru. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking like, it originally was going to be called.
And you didn't know him.
I had known him from different like signing events.
Okay, so you had met him and you were familiar with him.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's eerily accessible.
He is. He. That's why it's so easy to fall in love with him, because he's one of us. You know, one of us. You know, oddly enough, that's one of his favorite movies of all time. You can definitely see it in Nightmare Alley.
In Freaks, yeah.
Yeah. The influence of Freaks on Nightmare Alley. But then when I did, it was originally going to be called Buddha del Toro. So I was going to kind of do a Buddha style of Guillermo. And then I thought, like, you know what? Like, I've always wanted to do a design. I had done designs before where it was like the 6 arms. I was like, let me do that, because then I can do kind of representations of the things that he loves in all his movies. So one of them was Hellboy. Another one was like a tentacle.
You did put that specific rim, right?
Yeah. Or like Lovecraft. I wanted to kind of make it vague enough.
Because you don't want to do the actual property. I understand that too.
You know, there was one that was like definitely a kaiju on for Pacific Rim, but it still kind of like was drawn vague enough.
Yeah. A kaiju doesn't have to, because he was a big Sideshow fan.
Yeah.
Like in that fact that he put a Sideshow shipping container in Pacific Rim.
Well, and now that we're talking about Sideshow really quick, I just want to say thank you to my friend David Igo, who definitely put in a good word for me. Well,
friend of the show and former guest David Igo, and personal friend of mine as well. Yeah,
one of the best, man. If there was a version of Captain America as an artist, he's it.
Nobody champions artists more than David Igo, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he finds the bright people. He teaches the right people.
Yes, I took his ZBrush class.
Did you take it with like Adi Granov and Olivia DeBardinis and all them?
I took it. I had a class when I was one of the artists in it was Dave Wilkins.
The 400-pound ninja.
Yeah. So I'm still upset. I was gonna do an El Sambo variant cover, and I just never got around to it. So one of these days, Dave, promise. Sorry, to go back to the Guillermo del Toro. So when I was designing that, I looked at it and I was like, this looks like the Chronos device from his first movie. It's so for those who don't know, Chronos is his Guillermo's first movie that he directed. It like his first big feature. He had done a bunch of stuff before that, but he literally built like a whole makeup studio effects in his town, because there was nobody else. So he literally kind of like created like a small little industry for himself so he could make his own movie. And funny enough, before Chronos, he was going to do a stop motion movie.
Of course. That's a hell of a way to start, huh?
Which is why for him, I think it's very gratifying to finally do Pinocchio, because he never finished that stop motion movie, because before they got production started, somebody came into the studio and looted it and stole a bunch of the puppets, and I guess piss in the studio. Yeah, so he was like disillusioned, and he's like, well, live action it is. So anyways, I keep like segueing the Guillermo del Toro, very much. I was like, oh, that's perfect, because it kind of looks like there's a little device in Chronos called the Chronos device, which is this little like bug looking thing that has 6 arms, and it attaches to your hand, and it has a little insect inside that basically filters your blood and then makes you like immortal, essentially. He created like a new version of vampirism, which I still love to this day. So that's actually, and a lot of people ask me like, what's your favorite movie of his? And I know, like, you know, that's because that's his first movie. He sees a lot of problems in it, but that's still one of my favorites. His first auteur, like, you know.
Yeah.
into the world. But yeah, so it's a lot of little different things into that Guillermo del Toro.
So you get this piece, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is the piece that kind of gives you that more mainstream attention, that you're a designer, that you have this final piece out, that gets you that main attention. You also then worked on a book called Kid Del Toro.
Kid Del Toro, which again I did through an art show. The art shows for me were like I said, were like I'm like, what haven't I done yet?
Because I've been to one of your art shows too, and that was really so with Kid Del Toro, which I have a copy signed by Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, amazing!
That I picked up at Dark Delicacies.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I was out of town when you were doing your signing.
Yeah.
Because I messaged you after the fact.
But thank you for getting one.
I said I sprinted there as soon as I got back into town, and I got one of the last autographed copies, and it was the only one where the autograph wasn't smudged.
Oh yeah.
Because that was like signed in that thick gold ink that if you don't let it dry out for an extended period of time, it's a problem.
So you want to hear? That's kind of a crazy story because the day I had to go do that was Guillermo like had and after the Oscar win in 2017, he became even busier. Which,
he's untouchable.
Which good for him, of course. Like so happy for him. But when the book was published, I said, hey, I reached out to him. I said, like, hey, I'm doing a signing at Dark Delicacies, and I know he's always that's actually one of the first times I met him was at a Dark Delicacies signing. So I thought it was kind of like a great full big circle.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like I'm gonna do the signing. Would you mind like signing some copies? Because I know he wasn't gonna be able to show up and do a signing, obviously. Not anymore. Like not maybe the Guillermo from 10 years ago, not the Guillermo now. But anyways, he said yes, and he's like, I need you to drop him off at this location at this time on this day. And of course I was like, of course.
Yeah.
So literally the day before the signing, I like drop them off. And then at the same time, I had to do my own signing for Little Libros. I had to sign a bunch of Kid Del Toro books at Little Libros warehouse, which was like almost like an hour away.
Oh, geez.
And then it was literally like drop the books off with Guillermo, go
sign the books,
sign my books. Yeah. And then they were like, literally as I was signing, they were like I'm done. And I was like, zoomed back, picked up the books, and then I had to go back to Little Libros because I wasn't done yet.
Totally worth it.
So absolutely. But it was just such one of those crazy, I'm living in a movie right now.
Yeah. Are you guys, I mean, obviously he's nearly impossible to get a hold of. But you guys are friendly. You guys are like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, just that, the fact that he did that, it's just like, I saw that as his blessing on the book, and he's just such a lovely person.
And he has the piece too, the statue.
He has the original Guillermo del Toro, and that I'm so honored to say that is in his Harryhausen collection.
Oh yeah,
next to rad. what's the is it the Shiva the goddess? And
I do not know.
Yeah, but I think it's in the Voyage of Sinbad. She appears.
Okay,
yeah.
That's cool as hell.
But I mean, that's I'll take
because you guys obviously have similar interests. Because he's an old classic horror guy. You obviously do.
But you know why? Because we both. I think it's like a Latin American thing.
I would say it's what you have access to. Right?
Yeah, because we all he grew up with Japanese stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly being fed Japanese stuff, and I did too. Like everybody, I think in South America, or people, I think sometimes in certain European countries or in the Philippines, we grew up with this mainstream of Japanese.
Okay,
stuff.
so there's actually I get to teach you about some stuff here too.
Yeah.
So the reason that Japanese culture is so important, especially to people that grew up and came of age in the 1970s, is actually due to cable TV. Because Japanese, like Godzilla, like old kaiju films and things like that, were so cheap. They would sell them to they would just be like, like get pennies on the dollar. You could get that. And they took up so much time when you would have commercials and things like that. So when these companies were needing stuff to pad their schedules, because cable was supposed to be this 24-hour thing,
right,
that they would get access to all these cheap B movies that Japan was putting out.
Wow.
And so people grew up on those, and it doesn't matter how cheap something is when you grow up on it, it becomes amazing.
Yeah.
Or how bad it is. You and I have talked so many times about how much we love Masters of the Universe. Yeah. That is an objectively bad show,
Yeah,
script wise.
yeah.
Script wise, it is not good.
Script wise and animation.
But yes, but design wise,
absolutely,
it's so wonderful and amazing. And
because like one of the things I love about Masters is that it never had like you could, I mean, I feel bad now not knowing the designer's name, but it was really designed by this one guy,
Mark Taylor.
Mark Taylor, thank you, at Mattel. And like if you look at his original designs, I have that book, that like bootleg book that came out that I love.
Did you get that at PowerCon?
I got it on eBay.
Oh, okay.
Because I missed out. I think when it first came out, but yeah, I mean, Filmation benefited from all these like rich, amazing designs. That was literally, all these people, probably Mattel, like, coked up, like in a meeting, like,
I mean, what it really came down to is we need a Star Wars because we. There was like, we screwed up. Give us a Star Wars, and it's so funny about that too. Because
by the way, I'm going to say this. You, George Lucas, for giving us the toy sickness to all of us.
The addiction.
It's his fault that we're all like,
no, it's
broke.
not. No, because that's unfair. What it really comes down to is he made very affordable toys in a smaller.
Well, he was smart.
Size.
He was smart.
I mean, Kenner was smart, realistically speaking. Like, because you got to remember too that up until that point you had either 6 to 8 inch Mego, however you want to say it.
Amigo. Whatever.
Or you'd have like 12-inch.
Yeah.
Toys. You'd have like, Alien or stuff or like what was it, $6 Million Man stuff.
Yeah.
That 70s stuff. And that, so we didn't really have shrunk down toys that much. I mean, I think Ertl ended up taking up doing some stuff that small too. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
By the way, Ertl, my favorite thing that Ertl ever did was the Super Mario Brothers movie toys. Those are my favorite.
It was an interesting last gasp of Ertl. ERTL was a very interesting toy company.
Yeah.
Much sort of in the vein of Tonka, although Tonka I think had a much stronger brand. Yeah. But so Guillermo, obviously you have this love, and he makes these things that are his passions. He takes whatever thing he grew up in and then uses his sensibilities to push it forward. Why not? Take the romance of a Universal Monsters film and actually make it, romantic in the way.
Yeah. And that's the biggest Universal ever did. They should have just like handed him the keys and like, do all your versions of the Universal Monsters.
Yep.
And he's kind of sort of been doing it little by little. Like I consider Chronos his like vampire movie. So that's like Vampire's done. Shape of Water, he did his Creature of the Black Lagoon. So the one that so we're talking about Guillermo. I want to put this out there, and I put this on Twitter the other day. My 3 movies, like I don't, like that he has to do, like that.
These are very emphatic.
Yes.
Coming out.
Yeah. Yes. So he has to do Frankenstein, which I know he has. Yeah, I know he's one of those things like I will not die until I do this movie. So I know that he has a script for it. I know his design is going to be based on Bernie Wrightson's design. Mike Hill, who's one of the guy. Okay, so
real quick for those of you that do not know, Bernie Wrightson was a legendary comic book artist, and his design for Frankenstein is much more of the stitched together corpse version of that kind of long kind of corpsey hair. If you ever get a chance, look up Bernie Wrightson. It's WRIGHTSON.
Yeah.
He's considered one of the greatest pen and ink pencilers in comics of all time.
Just go on eBay and just get yourself a copy of his Frankenstein book. His Frankenstein illustrations are gorgeous. I believe it took him 7 years to complete all of those.
I'll put it this way: Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein is so important, to artists that in the paint room of Sideshow, they have a full mural, of Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, if any of you went to go see the Guillermo Lacma exhibit in 2015, Guillermo owns a lot of the original pages. I'm still waiting for.
By the way, you're not going to get Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein on eBay.
Oh, the book. I mean,
I'm looking at it and I'm like, I mean, I guess you can get it like pretty cheap. Soft covers are like $70.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm still waiting for IDW to put out. They were going to put out like the artist edition.
That thing would sell 1 million copies.
Oh, dude.
On a full 11 by 17 size pages.
It was announced a couple years ago. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they weren't able to kind of get, I think it's kind of sort of like trying to find access to the art.
Timothy Doyle is the person who is...
from Nakatomi.
So Timothy Doyle is the one who sort of helps run the estate.
The estate, yeah.
And when he came on and did the show, he talked about how it's the only property he won't take a cut from.
Okay.
So that all the money goes to Bernie's widow.
That's great. Yeah, I got a print from Nakatomi. I had the one where like they're in the lab and he's grabbing the creature is grabbing Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Man,
first Sideshow's first commercial
model kit
because
it's right there. It's painted. It's right there
when you walk in. Yeah. And they tabled with Bernie Wrightson.
Wow.
At San Diego Comic-Con.
By the way, one of my first introductions to Bernie Wrightson besides Frankenstein was all the concept art he did for Ghostbusters, because I'm a huge
you are a huge Ghostbusters fan, and because we're going to talk about that for a second too, because you recently ran a Ghostbusters art show, which I went to.
That's right. That's where I went. You, me, and Dave. We all met outside. Yeah,
I met up with Dave Igo. We went independently. Like we both were like, "Are you going to this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going." I was like, "All right, I'll meet you there."
Yeah.
So we hung out there. It was in Pasadena.
Yep. At the Sugarman Gallery.
I met Nick Cowan.
Yep.
Who is a future guest of the show there, and you introduced us, and you were like, and he also did this, which I'm not going to spoil because I want to talk about it on that episode of the show.
Okay.
And I was like, get the out of here. I was like, shut up.
That's how I always introduce him, which I feel bad, but like we've been friends, and dude, I cannot say this enough. Like, all these things have happened to me because of gallery shows. Like, I met like a lot of my best friends, like the artist Pakoto, who illustrated Kid Del Toro with me. Met him through the art. When I did art galleries, like it literally consumed my life, like to the point where I started doing shows internationally, and I would invite all these international artists. So the beautiful thing about this and where I'm going with my career right now is, if for some reason I get to do, I'm right now writing and directing a short film called Lucky Brave Sunshine. So I'm hoping that if that helps me open some doors and I get to the opportunity to do more animation stuff, I can now, pick all these artists that I've worked with from galleries over the years to
bring them in.
That's so, but anyways, Nick and I go almost 10 years from meeting at art galleries, but every time I introduce him to people, I'm like, and by the way,
and he did this thing, and half the time people are like, I'm not familiar, or the other half they're like, get the out of
here. For a long time, he shied away from it because he wanted, and I get it, you want to be recognized because he's also
an incredible artist,
amazing designer,
and again, I don't want to give his credits too much for this because he is going to be on the show. He and I have been scheduling it, and it's very difficult to have our schedules match. But he is somebody that I'm very much excited to have on the show. So take a look at that. But you had an amazing collection.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Just really talented artists. I bought a couple pieces. And here's how important gallery shows are. Okay. I went to your gallery show, bought a piece that I liked. I also bought a piece in their backstock from their Hocus Pocus ones for a Christmas gift for somebody.
Nice.
That I was like, well, this was from the artist. This was from the storyboard artist from Hocus Pocus, and this is a print of the storyboard from that. And that gift, totally unrelated to that, was just like, it was like, oh my God, how did you get this? Kind of a thing. Like one of those gifts where people like just get blown away,
mind blown.
Art is like that, and it's oftentimes not the stuff that you go with intent to find and get. That ends up sort of coming back.
And that's the biggest thing I sometimes tell people, because artists, especially artists, we're introverts for the most part, and I think you have to put yourself in the situations like doing galleries or going to events and things like that, because you just never know,
and you forget they're fun.
Yeah, they're fun, and like not just like networking, quote unquote networking or making connections, but you just never know like what you're gonna find. So I always like to call it like it's like being Batman, because I would spend literally almost the entire year in my Bat cave, planning, and then like my the art gallery opening was my Bruce Wayne moment. Like, hey everybody,
how hard is it to? So running like that, the Ghostbusters show you did, for example, not official, right? It wasn't one of those. Okay, so if you're setting up a gallery show,
Yeah.
do you contact artists that you think would be great for this, or do you contact your friend artists and say, would you be interested in doing this?
When I started doing gallery,
So say the Ghostbusters one. We're just going to use the Ghostbusters one for an example.
Okay, yeah.
You've known that was in 2019, I believe, right? Or 2020?
Jesus, it was 20.
It was 2019. Because wasn't it before the pandemic?
No, it was during the pandemic. It was actually 2021.
Oh.
Because it was when Afterlife came out.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right. So,
No, but I know. Like our brains are scrambled.
yeah, I have no.
because of all
Okay.
this
So,
thing, yeah.
so it's 2021.
Yeah.
For example, you had Nick Cowan,
Right.
as an artist there. Now you've known him for a while.
Yeah.
And did you like, hey?
I always reach out to the what I like to call like the people that I know for sure.
Your core, yeah.
My core group, and that's how I started. I started in Philadelphia with basically just literally my graduating
And
class.
that's because you went to school
Yeah.
in Philly.
Yep.
From Ecuador to Philly.
Yeah, from Ecuador to Philly, from Ecuador to Pennsylvania. I grew up in a town called Danville, Pennsylvania, which is
Okay, so you grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went to school, studied arts, went to art school in Philadelphia, met a bunch of like my lifetime friends there, and then when I was studying at school, I knew that I wanted to get into animation because that was always kind of like my dream is to kind of get into the industry. So I had an internship at Cartoon Network Studios during my junior year in Philly.
Oh wow.
So that internship changed my life. It's
Yeah.
literally, I don't want to say this, but it literally kind of gave me more of an education than my 4 years.
Was that internship? Well, of course, yeah. It's practical education.
Yeah.
So was that when you said your internship was in Cartoon Network Studios? Was that in Los Angeles, in Atlanta, or was it in Philadelphia?
It was in Burbank. It was
Okay, so you came out to
and what was
Burbank.
weird during that time is like, there was no Zoom, there was no nothing. It was literally a 2-part phone interview.
Okay.
And I think because they could tell like how excited I was. Like I think I made it through.
That's what they want.
Through
Yeah.
the courses, Yeah.
That is what they want. They want someone excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. So that those 3 months out here was like insane. They didn't pay interns at the time, and that was the first time I literally got a credit card.
To like survive,
and I took out a loan, and I actually for a little bit I worked moving furniture. Remember there
I
was
have done that job.
You remember where Dark Delicacies used to be on Magnolia?
Yep.
Before Dark Delicacies, I think it was like a furniture store.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Where the Blues Brothers were outside. They
Yeah.
had like
Oh,
statues of the Blues. That's where I worked. I don't know what it was called, but I worked there for I think a month, and I was like, I'm done.
I did furniture moving.
Yeah.
I did that in college. I've had the weirdest jobs.
Yeah.
In college.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
my
yeah.
first job was
I worked at a wood shop too. So
my first job
Wh-
digging headstone plots in a graveyard.
oh my god, wow.
The number of times I've accidentally hit a casket with a shovel
If you-
because of the way that the body settled.
If you ever interview, I want to someday get Guillermo and Kevin Smith in one room because they both.
You're jumping the gun off of
No.
the next thing wanna
I
talk
know.
about.
But it's related. They both worked at a cemetery.
I did too. Yeah.
Growing up. You
Yeah,
know,
I was 16
Yeah.
and I was making $10 an hour in 1998 money,
Wow.
which is like, that's good money.
That's good money.
That was
yeah.
good money. So I was making $10 an hour to dig what is essentially rectangular holes.
Wow.
And it was during the day. Like there's nothing creepy going. There's nothing's
Right.
coming out.
Yeah.
You know, like even if you're like genuinely afraid of death, like
Yeah.
that's it. And it was just, you would
Yeah.
dig a hole,
Mm-hmm.
pour cement, and then that was it. You'd have to
And
just make sure it was a foundation.
And how long did you do that?
I mean, it was like summer jobs.
Okay.
Like I was a painter. I worked at a Foot Locker. Like I've done every job.
I was a professional dishwasher.
Ooh.
But the reason I say professionals because I did it for almost 5 years during high school and then into college.
Yeah.
And then I worked at a wood shop. Saw so many. That was kind of like
I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think it's important to diversify your work background.
You don't know how many art students I took to the emergency care. Like I think I cut my finger off. I was like, oh god.
Oh no.
So
yeah, right.
So it was sometimes like really low key job, but then sometimes be like,
Really intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that has shop in the name.
Yeah.
The accidents
Yeah.
are intense. They might not be frequent, but they
Yeah.
are intense when they happen.
Yeah.
Now one of the things. Okay. Oh wait. No. Before I get into that, so
Okay.
we're gonna be reading producer names in a second, but I still want to hear more
Yeah.
about so you go to your pocket of people that you have, your reliables, the people that you think are going to make your show better.
Yeah.
Because that's the other part too, is not just bringing in your friends, but bringing in your friends that you think are going to knock it out of the park, right?
Right. Basically my core that I can rely on, that I know they're always going to deliver. But my I guess my formula, I should say, has always been a mix of people that I can rely on, and then a mix of new. So some old blood and new blood.
Because you had Dave Igo in that show, right?
Yeah,
he did a Slimer on wood, right?
Yeah. He does these beautiful graphite like drawings.
He did a clawful for me for my birthday.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. I love. By the way, I love all the master stuff that he's doing. He's like living his dream.
Oh, with Tweeterhead?
Yeah, it's so good.
I was their social media guy for a year.
Were you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's why I was at PowerCon.
Oh, okay.
When I was working the booth at PowerCon.
And that's when you and I think kind of like officially
That's when I first met
we
you.
clicked, because I had seen you in the sideshow shows and stuff. So
that's actually something very embarrassing for me.
Oh,
it's very embarrassing for me, and I'll tell you why. Because I came across your stuff. I walked by, and Dave's like, "I'm gonna go see my friend," and we walked by, and I looked, and you had the what was it?
Was it the Frankenstein?
No, it was the shirt. It was the Monster Squad.
Oh yeah.
And I was obsessed with it. And I was like, I love this so much. And then we were talking, and you were like, yeah, it's Chogrin. And I was like, oh my God, from Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then in front of you, I said, man, I love your stuff, man. I'm so sorry I've overlooked you. I'm going to follow you. And when I went to, it was I think it was Instagram, and it said follow back. And I somehow missed that you had followed me.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed.
Oh,
like I know for you,
but then that was amazing, because you and I were like, and so and so, and like, and we were like, just kind of like, like, and it's just like that's the power of like how small the industry is sometimes.
It truly is. Yeah. But it was truly embarrassing that I was a fan of your work. I had seen your work before, and when I went to follow it, you had, and that's the one thing about social media is it is. I'm very spotty about seeing who follows me and who doesn't. And sometimes I think people think that like we're refreshing and looking at everything that's happening. And that's a different kind of vanity.
Well, you know what, actually, talk about social media. You know what bothers me is like, I find new artists and people all the time. And for some reason, like, I don't know if this has happened to you, but like I reached a limit that it doesn't let me follow. Like,
I haven't gotten that to that point,
and it frustrates me because people follow me and I want to follow them back, and I just like I can't.
You can do things where you can like purge dead accounts that you follow and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think Instagram has at least interacted with.
Yeah.
And that might not be the worst thing in the world to have there. So you have the people that you bring in a combination of people that you think are going to do great, as well as introducing new people that would benefit from this, or the show would benefit from. So mutual beneficial.
Yep.
Ghostbusters, it was great. Yep. It was really, really strong. You had just these killer pieces.
And that was for me what I considered a small, like a more small, more intimate show, because I wanted it to be that way. Because like before that, like I kind of retired from gallery shows, because the last show that I did was just I don't want to say like it almost gave me a heart attack, but the anxiety was like over the roof, and I was just like, I think this might be, I'm kind of done. Just like, because it's a lot of work. And then like, if you're dealing with a gallery that's like, giving you extra stress, it's just like, like, just let me do my fucking job. Like I'm, let me curate, let me bring an artist. And if you're questioning every I'm making, then this is not worth it.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes every once in a while, like I compare it to, like you do the big movie and then you do the smaller independent movie.
One for them, one for me.
Yeah, exactly. So, so the Ghostbusters one, I literally just came out of the woodwork just because I love Ghostbusters so much. So, I wanted to have an excuse to create some new Ghostbusters artwork. So, yeah.
And you did. You ended up. One of the things that I thought was really fun about your design is that the design that you did was based not accidentally sort of on the Kenner toy line.
Yeah.
It was a choice that I noticed.
Yeah.
That you had the Kenner toy line, which we both, I'm assuming, grew up with.
Absolutely.
Those Ghostbusters. And because I noticed you had the eyeball ghost.
Oh, I did that.
That's the thing that I was like, That's from the toy line.
And
which they added into the movie, into the new movie.
Had a little cameo in the movie. Yeah. And that poster that I did for the show too, not to, segue back to Nick, but yeah, collaborated with Nick on that one. So Nick did actually a lot of the cool little like actual depictions of the Slimer and
there's a Slimer there's
the Kenner stuff.
So yeah, and because you do have that ghost there. There's the Ecto Cooler.
Yes,
in that poster.
That was Nick. Was Nick. Yeah,
one of the Scoleri brothers is in there. I think
I did. So in that poster, I did basically all the faces and anything that's a prop was Nick. Like Nick did he did the little marshmallows.
Which guest of the show, Shelby Young, voice of the Marshmallow Man.
Oh,
the little baby Marshmallow Man.
Oh, awesome.
So we've had. We've had a
Ghostbuster royalty.
Yeah, Ghostbuster. Yeah, she's an incredibly talented artist there. That's but yeah, amazing. So you had like the Muncher ghost in there from the new one. You have the PKE meter. Yeah, have some of Demon Vigo.
Yes.
I'm literally looking at it right now, by the way.
Demon Vigo is the best, dude, because it's literally Dan Aykroyd under that makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually a story. Okay. I just want to say really quickly how underrated Ghostbusters 2 is. Ghostbusters 2 is...
I liked Ghostbusters 2.
Amazing.
I loved it.
I actually loved... Okay. I don't want to nitpick Afterlife, but I think Afterlife played it a little safe.
I did not hate Afterlife.
I did not hate it. I love the ending.
You know why they played it too safe? Because Ghostbusters 2016 was bad.
Yeah.
And it was because they were very loose with it.
Yeah.
And they weren't great with the property.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be so good.
Me too. Because the talent behind it, like I genuinely was a fan of a lot of their stuff. So, and then
it was just,
but it was a terrible time because like, even if you said like one little negative thing about it, you were grouped with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, I guess I can't talk about this. So.
Yeah. I always had to preface it with like, no, I wanted this movie to be great.
Yeah.
It was not.
It was not.
And that's a bummer to me, especially when you see the talent that was in there.
Well, and then actually I will say this. I'm glad Ghostbusters Afterlife exists, and it's a miracle that it exists because it's essentially Ghostbusters 3. Okay, so going back, so from the Guillermo list, the other one that I want is Hellboy 3.
Well, of course.
And if Ghostbusters 3 can exist in this world, and as long as Ron Perlman is alive, there can be a Hellboy 3.
I think Ron Perlman really, would he be down with doing it at this point in time?
Listen. Just do the close-up shots
and get some stunt actor.
Yeah,
okay.
Because you know what? I think Ron just wants to do it just out of just completing the trilogy for the fans. This is a smart thing to do. Do the Del Toro trilogy and then do a Netflix series with Harbor.
As much as I love David Harbour, I got to tell you, I was at a Mignola art show. It was a Hellboy art show celebrating whatever anniversary, 25th, 30th. I don't know.
I did the 20th one.
Okay,
but this one was later on.
Couple. Some would say 5 years later.
Well, because Dave
Igo had a piece in there. Yes. Yeah. So we went there, and Mignola was there.
Right.
And I had just gotten a push notification as I was there from HBO telling me that their Saturday night premiere movie was Hellboy. And so, we were sitting there, I think Mignola, we were like talking, and I was just like, your movie. I was like, your movie is premiering on HBO tonight. And he's like, my movie?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, the Hellboy, it just showed me there. And he goes, yeah. Like he was really like,
I heard, I mean, I'm not going to get into it here, but I heard so much behind the scenes stuff and,
it's made by committee. It's a movie made by committee.
There was a lot of stuff that went behind the scenes that I heard different stories, but I will say this, I will give this to the movie. The pig monster is great in it.
The Baba Yaga.
And the Baba Yaga.
Those
are the only thing, because I was like, me as the Mignola like comic book fan was just like, oh, that's cool. But that was about it.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly great movie. Now we're gonna talk about other things, including that you kind of not made a shift, but you kind of recreated miraculously. You've recreated what has now become a guru line. That you're doing, where you went from Del Toro, and then you were like, who else do I absolutely love the work of? And it was going to be Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we do that, I don't know if you know this, but if you sign up at my Patreon, patreon.com/Jeff May, and you sign up for the producer tier for a very affordable price. Some would say, all would say, way too affordable. I will say your name in the middle of this podcast. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to give a shout out to some of these producers, and then we can talk about it. Because there's some names. Some of these names are prompts. Like some of these names are just straight up prompts.
Oh, cool.
So I'm going to shout out to the following names here. Shout out to Follow Crippled Giraffe, all one word, on Instagram for fun drawings and designs. He's done some great stuff. He's given me some stickers, and he's going to be at the Worcester, Massachusetts show, because I already saw that at my live show. I saw he bought a ticket, so shout out to him. So he gets his name read first because he gives me more money. Shout out to Instagrams at MRMTally, Talley. Shout out to I Ain't Got Time to Bleed. Carlos Castillo's unpopular opinion is Jeff doesn't even watch Batman. Oh, that is just all of the podcasts I do in one sentence. Shout out to Where's Clawful.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a Ben Mendelsohn Where's Bane, but Clawful reference.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Do you have a favorite Masters of the Universe character?
Oh man, I don't want to take your Clawful's up there, but I have to say probably my. Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Everyone should have one. You've had 40 years to figure it out.
Which one's the one I collect? I like all the He-Man variations. So my two favorites are the Horde or Slime Pit He-Man and Anti-Eternia.
Okay. Oh, so these are the newer ones. Then. Yeah. Shout out to try to be the kind of person that would make Mr. Rogers proud. Jeff hates competitive fun. JHCF. It's a Jeff has cool friends. Jeff hates competitive fun. Also, you don't even like sports. Podcast reference. The wandering unpierced left nipple.
Ooh.
Shout out to a collection of organs aware of themselves. Shout out to Just Boof It. Vortispin. Jocular, haggard, cantankerous fool. I don't care for pie. Oh, God, it feels good getting that off my chest.
Is that the name?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you have a favorite pie?
Cherry.
I was talking about I like a good cherry pie.
Yeah. With some coffee.
Yeah.
Not just because, it's a Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I was going to say that's very Twin Peaks. Huh? Shout out to Grumblebee, Gotham City, OSHA, Nicholas, you're doing great, Fabian. Jen, be earnest and enjoy what you love. Jen, you are such a shining beacon of hope in this wretched cesspool of producers here. Shout out to Ass of Bass. Shout out to MindFreak55 says the Varsity is just an okay fast food restaurant. Huh. You're a Wendy's guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm an In-N-Out guy now, but
that's fair. Oh, you son of a bitch. Shout out to Verbose Minimalist, world's humblest man. Jeff has colossal feet. Probably. He's a big fella.
Yeah.
They're 13s.
Yeah.
Although I managed to squeeze my feet into a 12 bowling shoe.
Jesus.
This weekend.
Was it painful?
No, it was surprisingly okay.
Okay.
Every shoe is different, like
it didn't throw you off your game.
Because sometimes like the Jordans I have are size 14.
Oh.
So like that is a large difference in sizing.
Yeah.
So you can't really support everything there.
Yeah.
Hi, your friendly neighborhood mortician here to encourage you to get life insurance. That is
Is that the whole name?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. She has seen some stuff apparently.
People are amazing.
It's get life insurance, everybody. A nice, pretty lady mortician is telling you to get life insurance, and she's not making money off of that. So.
Wow.
She should also be a life insurance salesperson.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to do it. Shout out to that way you're making money no matter what. You make money when they live and you make money when they die. Shout out to Christy Salinas, Parker Aylesworth. Just Parker Aylesworth. I met him on the Anthony Bourdain show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. 3 Jacob Tremblays in a trench coat sneaking into an R-rated movie. What's the first R-rated movie?
That's very specific.
Yeah. What's the first R-rated movie you remember seeing?
It was probably not The Matrix, but I can tell you that my first breakup was because of The Matrix. Because the girl I was dating at the time, parents were really religious, and when they found out that I snuck her into an R-rated movie, it's an automatic, you're not dating that guy anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade.
Wow. Yeah,
it was heartbreaking at the time, but now hilarious.
It's very funny. Yeah, that they thought the Matrix was gonna like ruin.
I corrupted her with the Matrix.
Yeah.
I gave her the red pill.
You glitched her. Yeah. I think my first R-rated, I remember seeing them kind of a lot as a kid, but I think it might have been like Rambo 2. My grandmother loved, that I saw in the theater.
Oh, in the theater. Okay.
In the
because I saw a lot of R-rated
Yes.
stuff when I shouldn't have.
As a kid
on cable.
So I guess from the theater, the first R-rated movie that I think I remember going into might have been like Tank Girl.
Oh, okay.
Was Tank Girl rated R?
I think so.
Yeah.
I actually remember which R-rated movie I saw, and this was when I was still living in Ecuador. It was actually the year before I came to the States. It was Starship Troopers.
Oh, that's a good one.
And that was
yeah.
such a great movie to watch as a 12-year-old.
So we used to have, there was a theater where one of our dads would bring us to the movies, buy the tickets and leave.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing it from dusk till dawn. Like my friend's dad brought us from dusk till dawn. He's like, yeah, I'm getting tickets. And there was like 5 of us and he bought 5 tickets.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you not going in? He's like, no, I'm not going to see this movie.
Yeah.
And they're like, you have to go in with them. And he's like, but I'm buying them the tickets. Clearly they have my permission.
Go.
And so then we didn't get to see the movie because he's like, I'm not watching this movie.
I think in Ecuador they didn't even check, and it was during my mall rats time period because our parents literally would drop us.
Oh, I loved doing that. I loved going to the mall. Yeah,
especially those mall like movie theaters, and be like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna go watch this R-rated thing.
I used to go to the Solomon Pond Mall and buy Star Wars customizable card game cards, and then go play and go watch movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a while my brother had a debit card before debit cards were a thing.
Oh, whoa.
And he would go to the credit card machine and he would get tickets. And he would never get charged.
Oh my God.
Because they didn't know how to charge debit cards on the credit card machine. We saw every movie so many times.
That's amazing.
Like I saw Deep Blue Sea in the theater, I you not, 3 to 4 times.
Wow.
Just because I was there. Shout out to Cronenberger Meisterburger. Shout out to It Was Me, Jeff. I've been giving you $10 a month since the beginning so you could afford more gas station Pop-Tarts, keeping you sluggish. Just slow enough for you to steal Christmas. So gas station Pop-Tarts are my preferred road trip snack.
Nice.
That's my sweet road trip chap. Savory road trip snack is pizzeria pretzel combos.
Oh yes, combos for sure.
So what are your favorite sweet and savory road trip snacks? So you pull up to a gas station and you're going on a 3-hour drive to where you're going. What are you grabbing? Sweet and savory.
Sweet and savory. Probably a Slim Jim.
Oh wow!
You
hate your heart, huh?
Or if they have like a higher or a more
a jerky, some kind of a
some kind of jerky, and I guess maybe I can replace that with cashews. I love cashews.
Okay. You don't have to. I'm not
well,
fat shaming your diet or anything. Like, get whatever you want.
No, I'm just saying, if there's no good selection of Slim Jims, I'll get cashews. That's my salty. And then usually for something sweet, I'll get like a Diet Coke or something to drink.
That's a drink, but that's not. Do you not like sweets?
Nah, I'm not a big sweets guy.
Oh,
so
that's weird. It's always weird to me when people aren't sweets.
Only when it comes to desserts. Like if you put like Porto's like pumpkin cheesecake in my fridge, it'll be gone in 2 days.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Shout out to Aaron Meyer, The Great Radvertising Scam, A Jeff May Joint, The Ghost of Dave Thomas, The Digital Phil, Silius Ruby, Jessica Robertson, Lisa Harden, the guy who played JJ in Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon. Kelly says, eat the rich. They're hoarding all the blue check marks. Shout out to You Are Awesome. Keep on keeping on. Nolan, Tubi's Dark Herald, says, watch A Breed Apart, Rutger Hauer's Eagle movie. Shout out to Itty Bitty Millie Committee Pity the Fool. Shout out to Dan Hackroyd, Burrito Mouth, Norm from Cheers, Lemming Malloy, While My Chocolate Starfish Gently Weeps. Shout out to Instagram and Twitter's at Bob_of_skull. Shout out to Mackenzie. Jeff made me feel like a douche from my Albert Camus reference, so now I'm going to make him say Eddie Haskell's obvious piss fetish. Chill. Can you believe he only had to pay $10 for me to say that?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
I got to up that price. All right. I'm never going to have a history podcast, you little shit, so stop asking. Shout out to the scene in Meet Joe Plaque where Brad Pitt dies. Shout out to I Get to Beguile. Shout out to Dr. DNA. Aeschylus and his tortoise. Lisa McCarty at Comics Book Girl. Comics with an X and girl with a U. She works at Austin Books and Games in Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Do you have a local comic shop you go to?
I go to the Perky Nerd.
Oh, in Magnolia Boulevard, yeah.
Or because they're usually pretty stocked. Because I my go-to is House of Secrets.
Same.
But if House of Secrets is always sold out, so then I'll go over to the Perky Nerd.
They were sold out of your View Askew cover.
Well, just in general, like
because I bought it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I did a cover for VSQ.
You did.
All right, sorry. Quick Stops. It's a new Kevin Smith comic coming out through Dark Horse.
Yeah, that's right. I bought it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shout out to Mike Gouts. I can't think of anything funny because I'm not the damn comedian here, Jeff. Doesn't have to be funny. You could just say Bill. That would have worked. It would have been so much easier. I'm having trouble reading this name because I am illiterate. Steven. Shout out to 20 years in retail has taught me loss prevention watches employees, not customers. You'll find out why that comes in later into this. Shout out to the Target loss prevention officer currently hunting Jeff.
Wow.
I shoplift M&Ms at Target when I go.
That's good to know.
1 bag of peanut M&Ms.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kimball, the casual Frankenstein. In the time since he changed his name on this document, Jezbutt had a kid, got a new job, and got COVID. Jez, I'm begging you, update that. Tell me about this kid. This kid's going to be 5 years old by now.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Asking Seven, Tyler Wilgus, Jeff using Deep Blue Sea memes to break bad news. 2 years in a row. I did it for the death of Betty White.
Oh, no.
And someone else that just recently died. Was it Barbara Walters? It might have been Barbara Walters. Shout out to Gray Man, tell me your fears. Show me in the rules where it says a dog can't play basketball. Eat shit and die, Grand Canyon. You ever been to the Grand Canyon?
No, not yet.
Do you want to?
Eventually.
I don't give a shit about the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
It's a hole. I got it. I feel like I got it.
I heard there's a train. I'll get on the train
You like trains.
that passes by it. So
we know that about you. You like trains. You and Guillermo del Toro. Big train fans. And Walt Disney.
And Walt Disney, yes.
But not. Shout out to Farty Marty, who's devoted his life to being upwind from Jeff in case, quote, the great air biscuit arrives as foretold. Shout out to Gerard, Boston Market saved my Thanksgiving, Ruane. I wouldn't know if I'd agree that that's what happened. Shout out to Feliz Años Nuevo, you goofy f***s.
That's pretty good.
I probably could have done a better accent, though.
No, I think you did it right.
No, I guess, yeah, because if it was wrong, I feel like it would sound like I'm doing like Speedy Gonzalez or something.
No comment.
Yeah, like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that accent, you know? It's like most of my Spanish accent I got from Slowpoke Rodriguez. So, Malatovsky advises everyone to calm the down and enjoy the menu. I think that's the movie, the menu. But if it's just about eating, agreed. Although I went to the worst. I had like probably one of the worst dining experiences of my life this weekend.
Are you going to say where?
It was at a pirate dinner theater.
Oh, I saw your story.
In Buena Park.
Yeah.
And which is like, I knew it was going to be bad. First off, it was $55 to go to this thing.
Wow.
And
that doesn't cover the food?
It covers the base level food, which was very mediocre.
Okay.
I got the vegetarian option because it was like a chicken leg or something, and it just grossed me out.
Yeah.
But so they have like one server for like 100 and something people. And
wow.
And it's like each section or whatever. And they had like one guy taking orders for appetizers in the whole thing.
Wow.
Which is like a 750 person place.
Jesus.
And so I was like starving. And I got there. I was like, can I get appetizers? She's like, oh, you got to get the appetizer guy. I'm like, well, can you let him know that we would like that? He showed up 30 minutes after we finished eating.
Oh my God.
And it was like, so do you want appetizers? And I was like, I think I told him, I'm like, I don't think you can call it an appetizer.
Yeah.
If it's 30 minutes after we ate. And I was like, I was like, did I do something to you? And like, I get it, but also like you could tell he couldn't stand his job.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there and I'm like, you know, and like as I'm out there, I'm like, that might have been the worst dining experience. Like, well, you know, it's hard. And it's like, yeah, but you still have a job to do.
Yeah, exactly. You're still paying for it.
If you're mad about doing your job, quit your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or be mad about it when you leave. It's not my fault. Like,
yeah.
Like and like she, like I got like they give you like whatever drink you get and then they just don't check in.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, we're here for like 2 hours. Like,
yeah.
I went through the 8 ounces of Dr. Pepper you poured for me. Like, it was just all of the series of it was bad. And although it was very funny because they There was like a pirate show, and it's at the end they call like a beast, like a monster that comes out, and it's like a kraken or something. But it broke. So after they defeated it, it just was still there. So they're acting around this, and it looked like a dick sticking out of the pirate ship, just like because it comes out of like the middle, and you could see like the people, like the stage hands, like hands coming down trying to pull this thing down, and they couldn't.
So what you're saying is the food was bad and the show was bad.
The show, I was like, is the food good? Absolutely not. But is the service okay? Some of the worst I've ever had. But at least the show was enjoyable. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. And it's like, I get it. It's for kids and everything like that, but it was supposed to be this like hokey, goofy experience. Yeah. But all of the like everybody dropping the ball just really made it not fun. Yeah. And I was like, come on, man. Don't make me be that guy. Yeah. Don't make me be the guy that's just like, I think I should get a Yelp. I think I should write a Yelp review for this. Like it would matter. I used to like, especially when I would get bad service, I would immediately be like my hands start shaking. I'm like, I'm gonna open the Yelp app. I can't understand giving bad service.
Yeah.
Like I can't. Like even when I'm having the worst day, if I have to face the public, I'll do it.
Right.
I've done it before. Like I've, even recording a show, if my life is falling apart, as soon as the show comes on, I'm like, hey, everybody. Well, because it's not your problem to have to unpack my
Yeah. Oh, man.
Shout out to Goji. Shout out to Jeff Hates Competitive Fun. Shout out to Rudy. Daft Punk has an anime, Rueda, and it's called Interstellar 5555. Daft Punk fan?
Yes.
Yeah. Favorite?
Album or song?
Yeah, pick one.
Oh, man.
Too much.
Yeah.
It was too much information.
They're all fucking great. The latest album was great.
That's Daft Punk is like that's my like playlist, my workout playlist.
Yeah.
Electronic music is what I listen to when I work out.
Yeah.
Check out Nerd with Dre and Jeff wherever Jeff May's podcasts are found. That is true. You can listen to it on the Patreon. You can also listen to it for free on here. And I'm guessing that is Dre that did that one. Shout out to Huey. Steven's looking for a new job. Everybody hire Steven. Steven, update your producer name to tell us what kind of work you're looking for. Shout out to Bart Fardigan, Patrick Dore at AV Foundry, Jennifer Fendelander. AV Foundry, by the way, that's the guy that sent me the Grizzlor.
Oh, cool.
The Master of the Universe stuff.
The variant?
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to Jennifer Fendelander, Bodacious Big Bad Bouncing Bollock Bonanza, Jumping Rope, still a sport, Jeff not liking it, still a fact. Maine, more than Stephen King. You ever been?
No, but I want to.
What was the farthest you traveled when you were up in Pennsylvania? How far north did you go?
I went to Massachusetts.
Oh.
I lived in New York for a little bit.
Why'd you go to Massachusetts?
Visit a friend.
Oh.
From art school. She her parents owned a house up there.
Oh.
So no, just a friend.
Fancy.
Yeah.
No, I meant owning a house.
Oh yeah.
My generation can't buy one. We can't afford them. Shout out to Big Booty Boy 42069. Ricky Cilantro, Null and Void, Koi Farm, Art and Mentoring, Bauhaus. You get the Aldo Vargas rookie card, everybody. R.I.P. Don West. Shout out to follow my dog's Instagram at Bash Noggins. He's dumb and adorable. Jay, friend of the crows, demands a crow emoji. Hashtag join the murder. And Jose can say cat. So shout out to all those producers. If you are a producer that signed up and your name didn't get called, you message me on Patreon, man. You got to do this. I can't do this for you. But yeah. And again, patreon.com/JeffMay. You get early uncensored episodes to the shows. And if you sign up for this one, I'll read your damn name. Now going back, because you went from the Guru del Toro, and now you did Guru Askew.
Yes.
With Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Was Guru del Toro, did you make the print? Because you work with Kevin Smith now. Like you've done with him. Yeah.
With him, it started, I did, when Loot Crate was a thing. I had a friend there that was the art director, and I did some boxers of Jay and Silent Bob boxers. So Kevin didn't really know me per se, but like I met him at one of these events, and I'd be like, "Hey, I did your boxers." So, and then basically kind of like hire me for other and that's how that kind of sort of like spiraled. So when I did the toy, then I had like a bigger thing, be like, "Hey, I did a toy of you," and then that's when
So he didn't know the toy was coming.
No, he approved it.
Okay.
It's just like me as the designer, as like the artist behind it, because like what Sideshow took care of like a lot of like the permission and all that stuff.
Because so again, we have 6 arms.
6 arms.
And we have a microphone for, I'm guessing, but a combination of podcasting and performing live.
Right, podcasting and his live shows. Yeah.
You have the bong saber from Jay and Silent Bob, a Clerks script, a like a bullhorn.
Yeah, for directing with swearing.
For his directing, a joint that's also Jay as a ghost.
I like to call it a puff of Jay.
A puff of a Jay, and a movie.
In a movie.
And so. You did that, and so obviously that's a collection of all a lot of the stuff that he's done. Yeah,
these gurus essentially are like what I think are representation of my heroes, like of these people that I admire, like of their careers, like So for Kevin, it's just kind of sort of like I had to make sure like it represented like all the things that he does because he's such a multitasking entrepreneur. He's always jumping to one thing or the other. When he realized that point where like, oh, I'm not just going to be a director, I'm just going to be Kevin Smith for a living. So him as a persona. So, and I wanted to put the Buddy Christ heart in the middle, just because also he had survived the heart attack. So I was like, oh,
did.
So, Kevin was a huge influence on me from the 90s to now. I mean, like, if I ever get to make movies, I wanted them to be a combination of like the supernatural element of Guillermo with like the indie emotional gut wrench
DIY
from
kind of
Chasing Amy,
personal
Clerks.
the indie movie scene that you saw with Clerks and Chasing Amy. Well, we won't Mallrats. I wouldn't classify that, but he's also got the Mallrats hat, the bat hat.
Like Jason Lee would always say, Clerks is a film, Mallrats is a movie.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
You did some interesting colorways. You did a gummy red for like an edible.
Right, Readable, yeah.
Readable is what it's called. You did a black and white style.
Which is the normal version.
Yeah, because it's Clerks black and white. You think of that.
Yeah.
And then, but you also did, and this is the one that I think is really fun.
Yeah.
A flocked, it looks like weed.
It looks like weed, but I can also put it next to my Moss Man. So it's great.
Sure. Yeah. Moss Man.
And Panther.
Yeah.
My flocked collection.
Yeah. So that flocked one, I mean, so do you have a bunch of these at your house, like that you have in boxes?
It's funny because like a lot of these, especially the Mallrats, I did like, there were so many color variations that I don't like, some of them just kind of keep like in my storage just because I ran out of like, display room. And I usually try to like occupy a lot of the stuff that I look at. Being other artists besides myself.
When you make one of these, say you design one of these, do you get, like, I know with like making a comic book, for example, like you get what they call comps. They'll send you so many copies of the book for you to like sign or sell or have in your collection. So do they do that when you make a statue like this? Yeah,
usually like it depends from company to company. Like some companies will send you more than others, but I usually get like sometimes like 2 or 3 of them.
Of each one. So it's not a lot, but it's
enough for me to, if I want to, gift one, or if I want to like.
But you'd have to buy more.
I have to buy
if
more.
You want.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. And and some of them, sometimes you get a royalty. So there's different deals that you can make with all of them and stuff. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get those good deals? Yeah.
I mean, I try. It depends like with a company,
Well, if it's a company that you've worked with several times.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously, like, naming names is not a thing that I feel necessarily comfortable with. Like this company, that company. But if it's a company that you return to, does the deal get better?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. So that now because I've seen you with Kevin in photos at different events a lot lately.
Yeah.
Like in situations where I was almost like, and I think I've even commented, I'm like, it's like you're chronicling his life now, because I'll see you post these. You're like, oh, it was great being at this event with Kevin. And it's you guys holding up the Guru Askew piece again.
Yeah. Well, I call 2022 my Kevin Smith year, because I was also, it was my year when I was 37. So 37 is an important number.
It's a very Clerks number.
A very Clerks number. So I just decided.
I've been alive for 37 years in a row.
So I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run with it. Like Kevin was gracious enough to just keep giving me projects and work, and I'm just going to run with it. And also I showed up to a lot of those events because Kevin's so busy. I wanted to promote the figures because there wasn't a lot of promotion happening from, other ends and things. So
it is very hard.
Yeah.
With large companies that produce a lot of things,
yes,
to get attention.
No, absolutely. But it goes to my personality. I've always been that way. It doesn't matter what company. Like if I'm not seeing the results that I want to see, I make that
go out and make those.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And I'm very familiar with that process. And I'm guessing very familiar with that process with that crew.
Yes.
Where it's like, you're like, hey, this is my lifeblood. I worked very hard on this.
Yeah.
How come it's getting buried? And you're like, oh, well, it's because this thing that a lot of people spent their whole year on one project or whatever, and they all need equal representation. It's so you're like, I do got to get out there. Yeah. And you are really good at that. Yeah. You got out there with, Guillermo del Toro. You got out there with Kevin Smith.
And then sometimes there'll be projects that are related to the same person, and you pitched it to the same company, and you want to keep it in the family, and then they say no to you. But then when you make it with another company, they get slightly upset at you for doing it with another company.
Let them.
So it's I just. For me, when somebody, what I'm trying to say is like when somebody tells me no, it's more of an incentive to even double down
to figure it out,
and doing it even more. Because for me, no, I kind of like I admire people that are self-starters like Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, McFarlane, Mignola. All these independent guys are kind of my heroes because they just kind of sort of, one of my favorite quotes from McFarlane is like, he literally started companies out of spite just to kind of like prove.
I mean, look, not for nothing, but there's a reason that Jeff Has Cool Friends is Jeff Has Cool Friends. And it's because, I thought working corporate was going to be better for me than it was.
Yeah.
And what it did was I do feel like I did not neuter myself, but I did feel a bit neutered.
Yeah.
In certain things, and for the reasons of protecting hundreds of jobs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not for. You know what I don't like?
Yeah.
I don't like when people are pundits in this world. When people are like professional nerds.
Yeah.
And the only time they talk about something is when they love it. Yeah. And I understand that in LA. You're not going to make friends hating something. I get that. I understand that. But there's nothing that makes me feel like somebody can't be taken seriously enough than when everything they've seen is the best thing they've ever seen.
Well, exactly. And then another problem is a lot of these bigger companies, they'll undermine you,
Yep.
Like I remember one time this one company was like, I was working with this other, celebrity, or not celebrity, but somebody that was well known, that I was a fan of, that I was just genuinely a fan of. And they had been dealing with a lot of the correspondence with them. And then once I kind of like became kind of like, not a friend, but I became friendly with them, and I had direct contact with them, they were all of a sudden like, well, how did you do that? And I'm like, what do you mean, how did I do that? Like, I just did it. Like it was almost kind of like they were like their mind was blown for the fact that I just like didn't need their permission. They were no longer the middlemen.
Oh yeah, okay,
and I could go directly to this person. So that to me, like I love that because I'm like, I don't need you.
Yeah, I recognize, and I've talked about this before in the past. I make no qualms about it that I know I'm never going to be the mainstream personality that a lot of people will. Yeah. I'm in as far as stand up goes, I was not what was a very good flavor at the time. I was a little too old and very passe. It's fine. Like with podcasting, it's the same thing where like, trying to get on that mainstream and really not, but being an independent person and trying to make it out on my own, it's obviously hard. Yeah. It's very hard and very stressful. And thank God thank God for Netflix. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you're like, you're just like, I'm glad that I'm not compromising. Yeah. But at the same time, I sure do wish I had insurance or like,
well, no, and I agree. And, and there's been many times when I've worked with these big companies where like, hey, we like the style that you're doing this in. We want you to do this person. And I'm like, but I'm not really a big fan of that person. So, and.
Oh yeah. Would you not do that if somebody was like, I'll pick one that you're obviously going to be a fan of. So that I'll be like Spielberg.
Yeah, absolutely.
So somebody was like, we want you to do Steven Spielberg. And let's say you did not like Steven Spielberg. And I picked somebody that you had to like because I'm not going to pick a divisive director that you might not like.
Right.
So, and you're like, I'm sorry, Universal or whoever, but I'm not a fan of that. Like, would you not do it?
I think if the director was like interesting enough and like if I was a little ignorant and didn't know full like their filmography, I would maybe think about it and like look into it. Like for example, like somebody like Jordan Peele, who I don't feel has done enough stuff yet.
Yeah, it would be a lot of Key and Peele sketch.
Things. It would just be the Gremlins 2 sketch for me. So,
right.
Or the Ray Parker Jr. one's fantastic.
So good.
But it was so it would. I wouldn't say no right away. For me, sometimes as an artist, I think that's the challenge is to, take a project and be how you can infuse yourself into it. But there are sometimes I'm just like, if they said like somebody that I just did not care for, I'd be like, nah.
Like a Paul Verhoeven.
That would be amazing. Actually.
Right? Yeah. Would that be great?
That would be fucking amazing.
Jeez, I'm trying to think of what it would be for Paul Verhoeven. You'd have the RoboCop hand.
Yep. Starship
maybe
Trooper,
with the spike.
The Starship Trooper with
a Starship Trooper with
bug hand.
Would you do a bug with the bug arm as opposed to the hand with like the Starship Trooper gun?
Oh yeah, I would do the bug.
You do the bug one. Then what? A Showgirls? It would have to be some kind of like a feather or something for Showgirls.
Showgirls. What's the other one that he? Didn't he do Total Recall?
I believe he did. So what would you do? Like maybe him holding the little tracer in his hand
or his face.
Or the head, the woman's head, get ready for a surprise.
Yeah. You know who I would love to do is John Carpenter.
Oh, and John Carpenter would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's.
Anyways, yeah.
Hold on, not just anyways though, because now okay, it's too easy. Okay, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say like I do have like I don't want to say like that I have like a lot of restrictions, but I do have like I do want to do something that's going to be somewhat personal to me. So Guillermo and Kevin were very personal to me because they were legit like heroes of mine, and they still are like growing up. So it has to be connected to me in some way. Like I was telling you, but the Ghostbusters show, like I was done doing gallery shows, but because I have such an affinity and love for Ghostbusters, even though it's a franchise and stuff like that, for me as a fan, I wanted.
Yeah, you're allowed to love a franchise.
So
So now I'm thinking John Carpenter, right?
Yeah.
So like, what we put in the hands? Would you do a pumpkin?
I already,
the knife.
I already did.
Have you did the design? Let me guess. All right, so you're gonna have Halloween.
Yeah.
Represented, and I would assume that would be either through a butcher knife or a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah. So it's the knife.
The butcher knife.
Yeah.
Okay. I would assume it's gonna be the Thing.
Yeah, he's got a thing fucked up on.
Okay,
him.
I was gonna.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what it is. I want to guess what you would do.
Okay.
So the Thing, and we do that. I'm going to guess Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Okay, so Big Trouble in Little China. Okay, so I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that it would be. I think the gun is too easy. So would it be like an electricity hand or something, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
You can tell me if I'm wrong, by the way.
Yeah, no.
One I'm gonna guess is sunglasses for They Live.
He's wearing sunglasses.
Okay, he's wearing sunglasses. Yeah. So that's not one of the hands, though.
No.
Okay, so it wouldn't be one of the hands. Escape from New York?
Yes, the watch and the gun.
Okay, and that's one of the hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's 4.
So that's 4. Now I'm trying to think of what. So like, okay, because John Carpenter's movies are. But hold on, they're so.
I'll help you. I'll help you with one because it's a little bit more like not. I don't want to say it's like lesser known, but one of them is The Fog.
The Fog.
So it's kind of like
the remake.
Like yeah, of course.
I had a friend that worked on that movie,
yeah.
And she was like, "This movie's gonna be so bad."
It was bad.
Yeah. Apparently, the director was taking a lot of liberties.
Well, John Carpenter just laughs to the bank because he gets royalties.
Yeah.
Anyway, So,
he's got. What was it? There was a great tweet that was about the two auteur viewpoints of Alan Moore and John Carpenter, where Alan Moore is just like, do not touch my thing. Don't give me any money. Don't contact me about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. Keep your money. And John Carpenter was like, oh, that'll just give me more money for weed and video games.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, when people like complain about those Rob Zombie movies, which I've never seen, but I know they have their fan base. Mm-hmm. I'm sure John Carpenter's like, that's fine. Just keep getting a paycheck.
So John Carpenter, the last one, I hope it's not vampires.
No.
Okay, because that one's
it's mostly all his 80s.
Is it one of the Prince of Darkness run?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's a trilogy, right? Prince of Darkness, and then there's that one with Sam Neill.
At the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a weird one.
Which is it was kind of his way of doing it. The Mountains of Madness. I love that he was very Lovecraftian in his stuff. I mean, The Thing is so Lovecraftian.
Yeah. I love.
Oh, and sorry, on that note, and that's the third Del Toro movie that he needs to make, At the Mountains of Madness.
In the Mountains of Madness.
So yeah,
I could see that.
Frankenstein, Hellboy 3, At the Mountains of Madness. Those three.
I love that John Carpenter did Memoirs of Invisible Man.
Oh my
as
God.
His big studio movie that he was gonna do,
Yeah.
and he fucking hated it, and he hated Chevy Chase.
I mean,
and he never says out loud that he hates Chevy Chase, but I forget who Sam Neill is also in it. And he was just there was one actor that I didn't get along with, and I'm not going to name names. And then he immediately made another movie with Sam Neill and never contacted Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
And it's not hard. Plus everybody that works with Chevy Chase tends to hate him.
Well, I mean, the biggest known, and it breaks my heart because I love Dan Aykroyd, is Nothing But Trouble.
Oh man, that movie is so bad. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, it's funny because I was looking. What was I looking at? Body Bags.
Yeah,
that was an interesting one that John Carpenter got to participate.
I think he had a lot of fun doing that because he acted in that.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like short little stories.
Yeah. So for the regular episode, we're about to wrap up.
Okay.
For those of you that are patrons, I've got great news for you. Chogrin's going to stick around. We're going to do a little Patreon bonus conversation where we're going to talk about working in the licensed Netflix world. And we're going to talk about what it must be like seeing your things show up in a very popular pop-up. So for those of you that want to hear more from Chogrin, please follow him on social media at Chogrin.
Chogrin, yeah. All social media, Chogrin.
It's Chogrin, right? Because I've been saying Chogrin.
Chogrin, yeah.
And it's Chogrin. Okay, I'm sorry for saying your name.
No,
wrong.
it's fine. It's all good. So.
Chogrin. You can also go to chogrin.com, and again, spelled the same way, where you can see the art and projects of Joseph Game. Is it Game or Game?
It's Game.
It's Game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I tried to be like, how would they say this in Ecuador?
No, it's funny
Ecuador.
because when I moved here, it was like always the opposite. Like they would butcher it in Ecuador, and then they would when I moved here, it's like they were like, "Are you sure it's not Gomez?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure what my last name is."
I'm pretty sure. So we're gonna talk about that. Anything else to promote? You got any projects coming up that you want people to look for?
Yes. My friend Andrew Bowser just came out with a movie that premiered at Sundance last night called Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls, and I did a toy for him.
You did do a piece,
and that's available right now at fortuitousfilms.bigcartel.com.
Yeah, and I think you can also access that at onyxthemovie.com as well,
no,
or you can see more about Onyx.
You can see more about Onyx on social media. Yeah,
and that is a very unique piece, by the way. And of all this, if I had had more time, we would have talked about that too, because it's a very, very interesting piece.
Yeah,
and you can see it on chogrin.com. You can also see what it looks like as well.
Yeah,
along with all the other pieces that you do, you have a very nice, curated, easy website to follow.
Thank you.
In which the first thing you would see is what we're going to talk about in the next. In that. So other than that, if you want to hear more from me, of course you can check out Jeff Has Cool Friends at patreon.com/Jeff May, where you get early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content. And you can also hear Patreon exclusive shows like Ugh Fine. You can hear mutually exclusive shows like Nerd with Dre Alvarez, which you can also get for free. Now, you can also hear Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on the Gamefully Unemployed Network. And you can also, you laughed at that, that's funny. And as well as Unpopular Opinion and You Don't Even Like Sports, both on the Unpops Network. If you want to see me live, Mint on Card, it's the second Friday of every month at Blast from the Past on Magnolia in beautiful Burbank, California. And if you are in Massachusetts, I'm at Redemption Rock Brewery Wednesday, February 22nd at 7:30 for Jeff Has Cool Friends, the live show. That is a live stand-up show. I kept my tickets cheap. They're still under $20. I do everything I can to make myself accessible and easy when I go home. You get that one show. Other than that, say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Bye. Love you. Bye. Hey everyone, our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram, as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababan, and boy, does that shred. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.